Okay, thank you so much, Brian. And hello to you all. Thank you so much for joining us for today's presentation, Protecting Your Personal Information Online. Um, and it's great to see so many people joining us from different parts of Virginia. Since you have the chat room open, what I'm going to do first is put the class handout into the chat room. I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second as I share my screen and begin our presentation. The link is in the chat room now, and what the handout is, it's not anything you have to, follow along with. It's just a sort of a bullet point outline reference guide to today's topic. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And as Brian mentioned, my name is Johnny Hernandez. I'm joining you from Senior Planet San Antonio. We have five different or six, five, six Senior Planet locations. And so San Antonio is definitely one of them. We're doing lots of things um, for Senior Planet from AARP. Let me show you what the handout looks like. So the link is in the chat room now, as I mentioned. And once you click on it, this one-page PDF file will open up into another window, another tab on your device. It'll even be there for you to reference it later after our class, our presentation is over. So as I mentioned, it is just sort of a bullet point reference guide to today's topic, which is protecting your personal information online. You can read through some of the points that we'll be making. There is at least one embedded link to a website on onguardonline.gov. We'll be talking about that and other resources. And as Brian mentioned, we'll be sharing a few different links into the chat room. So that you can click on and resources for further learning when it comes to protecting your personal information online. Let me switch over now to our slide presentation and begin our program. Once again, thank you so much for joining us today. Protecting your personal information online. This lecture will focus on things like privacy and online safety related to the topics you see listed here. I've already shared the handout with you, which again is an outline of today's program. We're going to be going over things like strong passwords. What should be included in creating a strong, unique password? And the key word there is unique. I'll explain why in a minute. We'll be covering things concerning spam, emails, and text messages, phishing, different kinds of phishing communications. We'll identify what phishing emails and texts look like and what they are, what the word phishing kind of means. We'll go over some safe online shopping tips. If you are someone who is doing some online shopping, we'll show you what to do to keep yourself safe while doing that fun activity. And then, of course, we'll share with you some tips on how to keep yourself safe while on social media. That's a big one because there's a lot of us who use social media sites to keep up with friends and family and other things. But, there's a lot of stuff out there that, we need to be wary of and careful with. So we'll share some helpful tips on how to keep yourself safe while conducting any kind of social media activities on your social media platforms. And then we'll share with you some final tips pertaining to today's topic. Let's jump right in and talk about creating strong passwords. So at first, experts would say, the longer the better, the more complicated the better. Well, the more complicated the better. But now they're saying it's actually the longer the better, right? Especially when you're creating a password for a website or an app that may, carry some sensitive information. The more sensitive information that website or app has, like let's say one of your banking apps, then the stronger the password it should be. Um, Passwords are a source of frustration for many people, though. Um, it's hard for us to memorize all of these different passwords, right? So there are different ways, different methods that you can uh, partake in keeping your passwords safe. We won't go over this in this lecture, but we do have other lectures that cover things like password managers. Some of you may have heard of that. Um, and other ways of protecting and storing your passwords. Some people stick to the old methods of writing all your passwords down in a journal, keeping that locked away safe somewhere so that you can reference that material when needing to sign into a certain account. Um, but yes, since we have to, and it's very recommended that we create unique passwords for each platform that we own. So your Amazon, your account, your Netflix account, your Hulu account, your Gmail account, all of the things that you use online should have its own unique password. Some of us use one password for all of those accounts, and that's kind of a no-no, because if one of those accounts were to get breached in some way, hacked by some, bad person out there, then that means those other accounts that share that same password are now just as, vulnerable as the first one that got hacked. So it's important to create unique passwords for each platform. Some ideas for passwords are depicted there on the right side of your screen. Um, as I mentioned earlier, experts used to say that making it as complex as possible is the best way, but now length is better. And one way to sort of, throw somebody off who's trying to, crack into your accounts is to use a combination of letters, symbols, um, and numbers. Like the first example is a good one. Age with attitude. Now they use the at symbol in place of the A, the number one in place of the letter I, and so on in the word with, and they used a capital letter. It's also very recommended to use upper and lowercase letters, at least one of each, when creating your passwords. Other ideas, people use meaningful phrases that substitute letters with numbers, as in the examples you see there to the left. Maybe a unique opening line to a joke or a book or something to that effect, right? Um, but since we have to create unique passwords for each account, it's important to write them down, especially while we're creating those passwords. Write them down so that you're able to type them in as carefully as possible. Um, what one problem I've seen from many of my students is they'll create an account, create the password, type it right in, and sometimes when you're typing those passwords in, all you see is little black dots, right? There's usually a way where you can click on like a little eyeball icon within that same little space where you're creating your account to see what you're typing in. Often most accounts require you to confirm the password, meaning you type it in twice to make sure it matches before it accepts your password to create your account. So make sure that you're entering it, writing it down, and entering exactly the way you have written down, with the right letter being capitalized that you intended to capitalize, and all that good stuff. There are no spaces involved in passwords. If you don't know that already, just, yeah, do note that there are no spaces involved. So you don't have to worry about creating, a phrase with spaces or something like that. It's very much like email addresses and website addresses where there are no spaces involved. But passwords are case sensitive. So any password you create that includes, let's say, upper and lowercase letters, as it should, it's important to remember which letters are upper or lowercase, because when you're trying to type it in and maybe you created a capital W, but in actuality, it was the I next to that W that you capitalized and you forgot, it's going to, be frustrating to remember. So do write them down somewhere. And if you learn more about password managers, that's another online tool that you can use to help keep track of all those passwords. Okay, let's see. Now, here are a few discussion questions, food for thought. You can enter your answers into the chat room, and like Brian was mentioning, we'll have some time towards the end for some Q&A, where we'll address any questions that you enter into the chat room, maybe discuss any answers that you enter to these questions, as far as, do you have any other ideas for strong passwords? And can anybody here guess the worst password? I bet many of you can. I've seen the word password being used as someone's password, and that's a big no-no. What information should not be included in a password? And that's a good question. That's something that we can discuss as well a little bit later. So I'll give you some time to look over those questions, and you can enter your answers into the chat room before we move on. I'm going to stop sharing my screen just for a second so that I can take a look at the chat room. Are there any free password managers? Yes, Kathleen, there is a one, I believe, called Bitwarden. That's one that I know of off the top of my head that is free. Some of them, yes, do have subscription, paid accounts that you have to sign up for. Check that one out, Bitwarden, B-I-T, what is it? W-A-R-D-E-N, I believe. And like I mentioned, if you ever attend any of our other classes through our seniorplanet.org website, we often have password manager classes available. I'll share some links a little bit later to where you can find other classes that we do offer from our seniorplanet.org website. Oh, Elizabeth mentions date of birth as social security number and your first and last name. Any part of your name are items that should never be included in the password. Very, very correct. Many of you are expressing the same sentiment, that date of birth And then some of you mentioned 12345. That's probably not a good password. That's probably one of the worst ones. The word secret, yeah. Any personal info should not be used. Very correct, Sharon. Yeah, you guys are really on top of it. And Brian shared the link to bitwarden.com websites. You can get more information on how that password manager works. Yeah, great input. Okay, well, let's continue on, and we'll probably find answers to uh, supplement the questions that we posed in these next few slides. All right. Yeah, I can tell you though that, oh, and one thing I wanted to share with you just for fun is this website here, nordpass.com, most common passwords list. So this one, I think it gets updated regularly, the top 200 most common passwords. And what it shows you, this list of some of the worst passwords ever used. You'll see here the column of the passwords, and some of you guessed at that one. And here, check this out. This is how long it took to crack that account. 1 second. The word password, just a series of ones. So that's why it's important to create a good, unique password utilizing all of the criteria we mentioned earlier, as far as numbers and symbols, upper and lowercase letters, and so on and so forth. I wanted to also mention, before we continue talking about spam, when you're creating those passwords, do remember that depending on the account, read the fine print. Some accounts require passwords to be 8 characters long. Some of them require to be 10 characters long. Some of them might be required to be 6 characters long. So as long as you're meeting those requirements asked by that platform, the website or app you're creating an account for, then you should be okay. And then follow the tips we shared with you today. All right, now when it comes to spam, basically the basic definition of spam is unwanted or junk emails sent by strangers. You know, very similar to, it's very equivalent to the weekly circulars and other ads and you know, coupon offers and things that we get in our physical mailboxes. You know, all that junk mail that we receive in our physical mailboxes is pretty much what spam is, but in a digital email form. Your options for dealing with spam is simply ignore it. Many of our email services, Gmail, Yahoo Mail, Outlook, they all have ways of filtering out emails that come to us that the platform suspects is junk or spam. It filters it out into a junk folder, a spam folder within our email service, right? Um, so sometimes that doesn't always work very well. Sometimes you may get spam emails that don't get filtered out into the junk folder, but arrive into our inboxes, right? And that's when we might come across some of these spam messages. And the best thing to do is just to ignore it. You can delete it, but marking it as spam or junk is helpful, because then your email service will later recognize other emails coming in that look similar to the one that you marked as spam or junk, and filter those out so you'll never see them. Those junk folders in our email accounts all empty out after usually about 30 to 60 days. They will automatically be emptied out, or you can go in there and empty them yourself. I can show you an example. I think my email box was recently emptied, or my junk email folder was recently empty, but I'll show you what that might look like through Gmail here in just a second. So yeah, ignore it, delete it, or mark it as spam or junk, but you should never respond to spam emails. If it's something that's coming to you that you did not subscribe for, you should not respond to it. You should not unsubscribe for it. And oftentimes you'll see at the bottom of most emails where there'll be a link to unsubscribe. My advice is to only unsubscribe from emails that you yourself subscribe to. Does that make sense? For instance, I subscribed to receive Target emails. I was doing some online Target shopping a few years back, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll get some notifications of when you're having sales and other things. But I was just getting bombarded by Target emails daily, and it was filling up my inbox. So I decided to unsubscribe, only because I know that I subscribed to receive those emails in the first place. But if you're getting, you know, solicitations and other things via email that you didn't sign up for, you didn't subscribe to, then do not click on unsubscribe. That's just as bad as responding to the email. And responding to the email is bad because all that is telling the sender of this email is that you have an active, that your email account, your email address is active, that someone is checking it regularly and responding to email. So they're just going to bombard you with more spam by responding to it. So yeah, as a general rule of thumb, another general rule of thumb is never click on any links that come in from a suspicious looking email, from a spam email, or something that should have gotten filtered into your junk folder. You might find links in there asking you to click here for more savings on this or that, right? Yeah, do not click on any links that are in there because a number of things could happen. You might end up having to give information out, or simply clicking on a link in a spam email might infect your device with some kind of virus. Um, all right. So also, there is a way where if you're some people have multiple email accounts. Some people use one email address for all of their shopping, one email address for just personal things, keeping in touch with friends and family, and so on and so forth. But take a look at each of those accounts if you have more than just one email address, and make sure you don't have any spam or junk that you might accidentally reply to in your inbox. Now, it's okay to read these emails, because what is also a good practice is to go through your junk mail and make sure that there are no legitimate emails that you've been waiting for in your junk folder. Sometimes our services like Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook Mail, they will filter out messages that it thinks is junk, but in actuality, it's an email that's coming from, let's say, a new doctor that you're working with. This doctor has never emailed you before for appointments or whatever, but now they're starting to email you with different kinds of notifications. Sometimes our email services will think that that's junk and then filter out. So it's a good habit to get into your spam folders, your junk folders, and just kind of look through the stuff. If you see an email that looks like it's something you've been looking for, uh, click on it and open it. If it happens to be just another spam email, that's okay that you clicked and opened it and read it. The thing is that you don't want to reply to it, you don't want it to unsubscribe to it, and you don't want to click on any links in it. You could just delete it from there if it's not the email you're looking for. But opening and reading is not going to cause any harm. All right, now that's spam. Now there's also another form of communication called phishing, and this is actually an attempt at identity theft by email, website, or text message. Sometimes phone calls as well. This is an attempt to steal your identity um, through these different kinds of communications that often mimic like legitimate businesses or financial institutions. One text message I've heard a lot of people receiving is um, something coming from what supposedly is supposed to be USPS, letting you know that there is a package on hold because the address label has been ripped off and they can't deliver it to your home, and they're asking you for your home address and this and that. That's definitely a good example of a phishing communication via text in this case. But we get lots of emails this way. Um, the emails or the texts often ask you to provide personal information by opening up a link they provide for you, downloading an attachment, calling a certain phone number, or what have you. The one common thing about these phishing types of emails, texts, and websites, pop-up ads, and things like that is that they create a sense of urgency. Like they make you want to think, hey, I better click on this right away, or I'm going to be in trouble, or my account's going to be closed or frozen, or this or that, or I'm not going to receive that package. I better click and give them what they want. Do not follow for that sense of urgency. There's a few things that you can ask yourself, and a few different telltale signs that you can check to see if the communication that you are receiving, the email, the text, the phone call, the pop-up ad on a website, or what have you. Um, Look for things like weird looking links that don't really have a proper, HTTPS or a proper .com, prefix and suffix to the website. Um, Requests for personal information. Anytime somebody's asking you for personal information, that's usually a red flag, a telltale sign of a phishing communication. And then the third bullet point talks about what I just mentioned. That message creates a sense of urgency. Do this now or else. That's a telltale sign. Obvious typos and errors is another thing that you can look out for. Most of the times, any official or legitimate communication that's coming from a bank or a legitimate company, whether it's FedEx or what have you, it will be prepared, reviewed, edited by professional copywriters and proofreaders from within that company before it goes out to all of its customers. So if you see a message that looks like it's coming from FedEx, letting you know that they need more information to deliver your package, but you see all these typos and errors, or a generic salutation, a generic signature. Anytime you do receive legitimate emails from companies and financial institutions like this, they're going to address you by name. They're not going to say, "Dear bank member," or "Sincerely bank manager." They're going to give you in the signature the person's name who composed the email, how you can get a hold of them, phone numbers, fax numbers, websites, email addresses, and all that at the bottom of that professional looking email and signature. But not these phishing attempts. Everything's going to look kind of weird and generic. Um, so, for example, here is an example, and I don't know if this was ever a real actual um, email sent to someone, but it is an example of what might be included that we like to share with our students. So knowing these telltale signs listed here, weird links, request for personal information, create sense of urgency, obvious typos and errors, and generic salutation and signature. See if you can take a look at this sample email and identify some of these. We'll identify them together. So, for instance, if this were a legitimate banking email, an email coming from your bank, it would address you by name, not say, "Dear my bank valued member." There's no colon or comma or any kind of punctuation after that greeting. And here it says, "Due to concerns for the safety and integrity of the online," and online is misspelled, "banking community, we have issued this warning message." And there's that sense of urgency. "It has come to our attention that your account information needs to be updated due to inactive members, frauds, and spoof reports." Now, in that sentence, that sounds kind of confusing. You're not exactly sure what the alert is, the warning is. So that's another telltale sign. If you could please take 5 to 10 minutes out of your online is misspelled again, experiences is misspelled, and renew your records, you will not run into any future problems with the online service. Um, However, failure to update your records will result in account suspension. So there's again, that sense of urgency. And sometimes recipients will be like, "Oh my gosh," they may have a my bank account, and they're going to think that this is legitimate and click on the links and give people, these senders, the information that they're looking for, these crooks. So if you take a look at the link down here, the .com is misspelled. There's an extra added E, and I've never seen that kind of suffix on a website, right? I've seen .govs, .orgs, but not .com or coms. And let's see what else. The L is missing from this HTML suffix there for that link. So we know off the top of our, just by looking at this link, it's a weird looking link. If you're on a computer and you're examining a phishing email, remember, it's okay to read it and look through it and try to recognize some of the telltale signs, but just don't click on anything. However, if you're on a computer and you're taking your mouse and you hover over any link that you see in an email, on a website, or what have you, usually at the bottom of your computer screen, your desktop or laptop screen, you'll see what that link is. And I assure you, if it's a link that's coming from a phishing attempt like this, it's not going to be even, it's not going to show you that it's coming from that actual website that the email is coming from. It'll be like something entirely different. Same thing with the sender's address. Sometimes you could check to see where this email is coming from. Let's say you receive an email from Bank of America, and you check to see who it's coming from, and the person that's sending you this Bank of America email has a Gmail account. That's a telltale sign. It would definitely be somebody with a bankofamerica.com account, a business email account that they use, right? So just to show you an example, and then there's the generic signature at the very bottom with no contact information or reply information. So keep an eye out for those. Now, phishing also comes in the form of SMS messages, or sometimes called smishing. It's hard to say. SMS messages is just another technical term for text messages. Opening and reading a phishing text is not dangerous, just like opening and reading a phishing email. But again, the same rules apply. You should never tap on the link or reply to that text. Even if you want to say, "Hey, so and so, stop texting me. This is a private number." Yeah, don't even do that. Just simply delete it, ignore it, and try not to click on any links within that text. There are some examples there. Some of them oftentimes if it's too good to be true, then it probably is. If it's not creating a sense of urgency, it's creating a sense of, excitement and asking you to click here because you've won something. As in the Amazon example there. Congratulations, Carolyn. You came in first in this week's Amazon Pods raffle. Follow this link too, and it doesn't say anything else after that. Carolyn might want to click on that link. She's probably is an Amazon, customer and isn't realizing that she never entered a raffle. But whatever the case, whatever thought process go on, sometimes people are quick to click on those links. But we're telling you, try to avoid clicking on any of those weird looking links. Clicking on that link, as I mentioned earlier, might just take you to a page or a form where you'll have to enter personal information like address, phone number, and other things. Or it might open up a virus, that's been dormant until that link was activated. And then that virus can spread through your device and maybe even your contacts and do all sorts of damage. So be careful with that and never tap on the links or reply to these types of messages. There is something you can do though. You can always forward any text that you receive, usually within the text, after you've opened it, or if you're just looking at it within your list of text messages, there's usually 3 little dots that you can click on that will give you an option to forward that message. So you're not replying to the sender who sent you this text, but you're forwarding it to 7726, which spells out spam. You can do this on any text messaging service on any device. Text it to that phone number there, and a report will be created on that sender and the phone number that text message came from. I guess will be investigated, and then it'll be permanently blocked. I'm not sure, what happens when we block messages. Some people often ask, well, can't we just block the phone number that text message came from? Yes, absolutely. So you won't receive any from that number. But what a lot of these companies and people who send out these texts in mass, they'll just pick up another phone number to send it from. They have computer systems that will do that. And so sometimes blocking messages, blocking senders helps, but it doesn't totally alleviate the problem, unfortunately. But reporting it and forwarding any suspicious text to 7726 can help reduce the number of texts that you might be receiving like this. There is another article link I'm going to share with you in the chat room right now, and this one is to an AARP article. Let me get that for you now. So, how to spot scam texts on your smartphone. Take steps to protect yourself from fake mobile messages sent by cyber crooks. All right, so this article, and this was written back in 2021, but still a lot of the information is very, very valid as to how to identify and avoid these kinds of scams. All right, so you can read through that article on your own if you haven't already seen this before. I'm going to put the link to this webpage into the chat room now. And as I mentioned before, any links that to resources that we share with you, you can always click on them now. They'll open up in another tab, another window on your device, and then you can come back to the class here to continue following along. Those article links and other web pages will still be there on your device after we finish today. Okay, so let's go back to our, I also want to go ahead and, while I'm at it, I want to put the handout link into the chat room again. So let me do that since some of you might not have seen it the first time. I'll drop that into the chat room as well. Okay. Lots of great information to help keep you safe. I'm hoping that you're finding that as well. All right, so let's take a look at shopping securely online. So I don't know if anybody here likes to do online shopping. I like to do a lot of shopping on places like Amazon.com, eBay.com, Walmart.com. But I always make sure that whenever I'm doing any online shopping, that I'm doing it from a secured website. And here are a few things to look out for. Verified websites usually mean they have enhanced security measures. They've taken some, great security measures and have security protocols in place for their visitors, for their customers. You always want to look for the S in that HTTPS website, which means that website is encrypted. The information, that you share with, website administrators, with Amazon or with Target.com or whatever, is encrypted from outside onlookers. payment information that you enter into that website. So always look out for that S. And in some cases, you'll see that little padlock symbol as well. Let me show you really quick an example of what I mean. I'm going to open up a new browser on my computer. And I'm going to enter, let's take the Amazon website as an example. I'm simply going to enter Amazon. Let me take my caps lock off. Amazon.com, right? Usually the way that most browsers show it is by this. There's a little icon. To me, it looks like two little lollipops in opposite directions. If you click there, it'll give you some information about the Amazon.com website as far as its security. So here it's telling us that, yeah, this connection is secure. There's that little padlock icon. If I click here, it gives me some more information where I can click to learn more as well. Excuse me. This website is certified. The certification it's received is valid. So you're getting all that information by just clicking on the little icon right next to the web address, the Amazon web address. And then there's the S in HTTPS ://www.amazon.com. So look, take a look at that. If you're ever on a website where you're like not too sure if it's safe, secure, before you do any shopping from that website. Another thing that I often think about is, okay, I'm comfortable shopping from this website if it's from a store that I can actually walk into, even if it's a small, neighborhood boutique, if there's somebody that you can go to and talk to if you ever have any problems using their website, then it should be okay to use that website. And most of those websites are also created with that HTTPS lock symbol and other security protocols. But I would avoid, excuse me, folks. Sorry about that. Just getting over a cold. I would avoid shopping from websites you may have never heard of before, and when you do Google searches for products or things and websites where you can maybe shop for certain items you're looking for, your Google search results or whatever search engine you use, the first few should be, definitely legitimate websites. The further you go down, that's when you start to get to the websites that maybe are a little questionable. Another thing to do to practice when shopping securely online is to use payment services like PayPal or a digital wallet like Google Pay. Those types of services provide you with more security. And in the way that they do is when you use PayPal, for instance, let's say you're shopping online from, Amazon or eBay. I think eBay even recommends their customers to use PayPal. When you're shopping on any website, and you choose, and they do accept PayPal as a form of payment. And if you have a PayPal account, I would definitely use that because the seller never really needs to see the buyer's card information when the buyer pays using PayPal. PayPal is an online payment service like Venmo, person-to-person payment service like Venmo or Cash App. You can create an account, you can add a form of payment, and whenever you use that PayPal account to shop for stuff online, as I said, the seller you're buying from, the website you're buying from, never has to see your card information. You just choose PayPal as your form of payment at checkout. It'll direct you to the PayPal website where you'll sign in securely with your username and password, and then there you'll continue the transaction. Then the seller, all they know is that, hey, you paid using PayPal using your username, but your username is usually like your email address or a nickname you created for your PayPal account. They never have to see last 4 digits of your account, expiration dates, the entire 16-digit, card number, anything like that. Now, when you use a digital wallet like Google Pay, what that does, it creates a one-time token, they call it, like a purchasing token, but it's basically a one-time card number that is produced for that one transaction when you choose to use Google Pay at checkout on whatever websites, whatever online stores accept it. It produces a one-time code, a one-time card number, kind of like having a virtual credit card, if you've heard of virtual credit cards. And we have other lectures that talk about all of this stuff in much more detail. But after that one-time credit card number is used, that's it. You can't, anybody else who gains access to that credit card number won't be able to do anything with it or get money out of your accounts with it because it's just a one-time use card number. So that adds that extra layer of security there when you're shopping online. Okay, here are some questions to think about that I'll set up for our next slide. keeping a track at the clock here. Um, are there sites where it's okay to give out personal information? I don't know. Maybe. Perhaps you're filling out a form on some kind of .gov website, so long as you know for a fact that you're on a .gov website. Perhaps you're, filling out application to sign up for SNAP benefits or Medicaid, or having to adjust something, and you're having to go to the IRS website. Maybe those websites it's okay to enter personal information, but very rarely. Okay. Oops. What kind of information do you like to share about yourself on social media? A lot of us who use social media like to share a lot of stuff about ourselves, what we ate that night, or we cooked it for dinner, right? Or if we bought a new car. That's a big one. Um, I will talk about that in a minute. Are you familiar with the privacy settings for the social media platforms that you use? And we do have separate workshops and lectures on Facebook privacy settings, Instagram privacy settings, where you'll learn how to adjust your privacy settings to make your accounts a little bit more private and not as public. But let's hear your answers. You can use the chat room to enter your answers, and we'll check those out in a little bit. Let's go ahead and talk about some of these best practices for social media. And let me take a look really quick, actually, before we continue on. Um, Yeah, John Caskey says, I understand that some scammers have been able to spoof the HTTPS address. And that, has been known to happen. Plus, anyone who has the know-how to build a website can create a website using, that secured socket layer, which is what that S stands for in that HTTPS. But it doesn't mean that the website is necessarily safe, so do look out and just, check the content of the website. Always scroll to the bottom of the website to see if you can contact who created the website, different things like that. And that's why I say it's best to stick to websites, especially if you're going to be doing some shopping, websites that you know and trust. Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, I'm just going to go over a few more points here, and then we'll looks like we'll be having some time for some Q&A. I'll go over what else is coming into the chat room from you guys, and we'll discuss some of that as well. But here are some best practices for social media. You will never want to give out sensitive information on any of those social media sites you see listed, or any other ones that you might be using. These are just general best practices. More information is available in other lectures we have, like Intro to Social Media, as well as other lectures and workshops on these individual platforms that I mentioned earlier. You definitely do want to check your privacy settings and adjust them as needed. Remember, we all use our social media sites for different reasons. Some of us may use them for if we're a public figure, a small business owner, or performer, or something to that effect. We might use our Facebook and Instagram accounts in a more public way. But some of us like to keep our social media accounts private because we're really just keeping up with friends and family, right? So be sure you check your privacy settings and adjust them as needed, depending on how you're using your social media accounts. Oftentimes, you want to avoid clicking on random things or advertisements that you see in your news feed. Um, you know, like games or tests, like, check which celebrity you look like, or different stuff like that. Now you see a lot of AI fun games where you can, put yourself in a picture of certain, like I saw something where somebody took a picture of themselves and used AI to develop like a picture as if they were, as if it was in the 1920s, like early 1920s. Anyway, there's lots of different games and apps and other social media little tools that you can that collect information from your profile. So it's best to avoid those fun little games and stuff, because then they will collect information that you have on your profile, your screen name, any other information that you have set to public, email address that you have linked to your social media account, and other things. You also want to avoid linking different accounts together. You might often see where you can sign into your Instagram account using your Facebook account credentials, or vice versa. or using, even your Gmail account and password to sign in, use it, to your Facebook account, stuff like that. You definitely want to remember, create a password, a unique password for each account that you have, sign in separately. A lot of people like to link their Instagram and Facebook accounts together. So when they post on Instagram, they automatically post on Facebook, but it's not necessary, if you want to keep things separate and safe and private as possible. Um, And then you always, if you're going to be checking your Facebook messages or your posts or anything like that, or doing anything with any of these social media platforms, and while you're using a public computer, like at the library perhaps, or a community center or senior center, or if you're linked to public Wi-Fi, um, you definitely always want to log out when using a public computer or when you're on a public Wi-Fi account. Um, it's safer to do this kind of stuff, like especially if you're going to do some banking or shopping online. You definitely want to wait till you're at home using the Wi-Fi, the password protected Wi-Fi that you have there at home, and your own personal computer or mobile device. If you're out and about and you're going to have to do some of this stuff, you can always use your smartphone to get on your banking app to check your balance really fast, or if you need to make a purchase that you forgot to make, before the sale ends or whatever, use your smartphone even if you're out and about, but make sure you're not connected to public Wi-Fi on that smartphone. Make sure you're using the mobile data, because the mobile data is what we pay for each month. It's our own personal internet service that we pay for each month, through whatever service we're using. And it's going to be a lot safer than using public Wi-Fi where, chances are, greater somebody might hack into everyone who is on that public Wi-Fi source. Okay. Let's see. Yes, another link that I want to share with you in the chat room. And this one here, protect your social media accounts from investor.gov. Okay, this is a government website, and you can see this banner up here. It says an official website for the United States government. Here's how you know. You can click there if you'd like to learn more. But most .gov websites are administered by some government agency. And in this case, it's the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, investor.gov. So this has a lot of great helpful tips on how to protect your social media accounts. Here's what you can do to protect yourself when using social media, so on and so forth. Online security tips, and other links you can click on, other related content. All right, so let me put the link to this webpage in the chat room. And then we'll continue on. There you go. Okay. All right, so here are some tips. Yes, perfect. All right, so here's some tips and more best practices, just common knowledge whenever you're doing anything online. You always want to use common sense, avoid, you know, entering information that you're not supposed to be entering if you're being asked. Avoid giving out personal information, especially like social security numbers online. There should really never ever be a reason to enter that. Um, Unless you're doing something maybe like renewing a driver's license or something, and usually those are .gov websites. Um, don't answer strange emails or texts. Remember, as we mentioned earlier, it's best to not reply to any of those emails or texts that are coming from some kind of stranger, whether it's a spam or a phishing email. And definitely do not open links in those strange emails or texts, okay? Because that can do a whole lot more harm than maybe just even replying to the email. Oftentimes those links will just ask you to enter this information or that information in order to resolve whatever matter is at hand according to the email. And yeah, that information is not ever sent to fix the problem. It's sent to somebody who's just seeking out, your personal information and wanting to steal your identity. Other times links will open up, viruses that can infect your mobile devices, and many of your other online accounts you link to that mobile device. When it comes to shopping, only shop on trusted websites. As I mentioned before, You know, I feel pretty safe shopping on Target.com because it's a well-known trusted site. And of course, there's a Target, you know, in my neighborhood as well. If I ever have trouble with an online purchase, I could always go in there. And those kinds of legitimate verified websites usually will have some kind of customer support, you know. If it's an online store only, Amazon, eBay, Etsy, a lot of those are, you know, safe and reputable sites to shop from. But you never really want to shop from any website you've never heard of before, um, or you know, a website you can't find any information about anywhere else. Only shop and bank when connected to private password protected Wi-Fi. As I just mentioned a little while ago, if you are going to be doing any kind of online banking or shopping, wait till you get home. Try not to do that while you're connected to the public Wi-Fi at the local Starbucks or at the senior center. Wait till you get home so that your device is connected to your home Wi-Fi, which is password protected and for your use only. It'll be a lot safer to enter, you know, sensitive information like, you know, credit card numbers if you have to when you're shopping, or bank information, you know, if you're doing any online banking. And the bottom bullet point there has a great resource, onguardonline.gov. Let me take you to that resource now. And I believe it's this one. Yeah, there's a couple of resources that we want to share with you. But for now, from the Federal Trade Commission Consumer Advice, Online Privacy and Security, Understanding Online Privacy, How to Protect Your Devices from Hackers and Threats, and How to Avoid Common Online Scams. So if you keep scrolling, when it comes to online security, you have several different links you can click on, like Are Public Wi-Fi Networks Safe? What you need to know, how to protect your phone from hackers, how to recover your hacked email or social media accounts, so on and so forth. So you can click on each of these topics to read more. When it comes to online privacy, how to secure your voice assistant and protect your privacy, how websites and apps collect and use your information, nonsensical distribution of intimate images, what to know, stalkerware, what to know about people's search sites that sell your information. So, and then there's some information on online scams. So this is chock full of great tips and resources and information straight from the FTC, Federal Trade Commission. All right, let me put the link to this in the chat room for you. Okay, there you go. And I do believe that brings us to the end of the slide presentation portion, but since we still have about 9 minutes left in the hour, we can open it up for questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And first, I'm going to take a look at this, the chat room to see what kinds of questions have been coming in to the chat room. Brian, did you want to?
And I will try to assist with that as well. Just again, really appreciate what you've put forward. One of the things that, as you're looking at the questions, I'll just buy some time here and say, I'm going to be dropping into chat the links to the next two Senior Planet webinars that will be featured weekly on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock. And just to remind everyone, there was a question about the slides. We did record this full program, and those slides and the full recording will be sent to your email along with a survey asking how we did today. So know that that's the next two things that I'll be dropping into the chat for everyone to see. Next Wednesday's event and the Wednesday after that, I'm not remembering the topics right off the top of my head, but they're online fraud and scam prevention type topics. And with that, Johnny, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, Brian, thanks. So I'm scanning the chat room and looking at a few questions. One from Barbara Palmer. Barbara, I'm not too familiar with People Finders or True People Search, but you're asking how can you safely get your personal information removed from those sites such as People Finders, True People Search. And then you continue to say True People offers an online option to remove information, but it first asks for your email. Yeah, that's a great question. We do have a Senior Planet tech support hotline number. I'd like to share with the information to that with you all, because sometimes, you know, if there is a, you know, often in our classes, if there's a question that we might not be able to answer, a website where we may not be able to be familiar with, perhaps, then I suggest giving the hotline a call. Our hotline caters to any technical questions that you have about your devices or about maybe a certain app you're trying to navigate through, um, some issues you're coming across with your web browser and your computer, different things, different tech assistance that you might feel you need. You can call that number. The information is in the chat room now. And hopefully they can help you with that question, because yeah, that's a very specific question to those two specific websites you mentioned. Should you allow your phone to save your passwords? Well, a lot of people do use their phone, and what you could do is if you have your Google account linked to that phone, Google has a nice password manager. Oftentimes when you sign into something, you'll see a lot of pop-up asking if you want to save your password to your Google account. That's okay, because you're saving that to the cloud. I mean, some people don't like doing that either. It's really just depends, or it's entirely up to you. But saving them on your phone physically, like in a notes app or something like that, and that you have saved locally to your phone, usually isn't a good idea, because then what if something happens to that phone? It gets lost, stolen, broken, dunked in water somehow or something. You might lose all that information that you saved locally to the phone. But if you're saving it to like a password manager app on your phone, then yeah, that's different, because you could still sign into that password manager if you need to get a new device, if you have to replace a new device. But there's a whole other class, and then there's something called passkeys now. That's just kind of confusing for many of us, but yeah, take a look at some of the different classes that we offer. I'll put a link where you can find more Senior Planet classes into the chat room here, as well as a link to sign up for our newsletter. You can always sign up for our newsletter as well. If you're interested in receiving our Senior Planet newsletter, you'll get news and information about new programs we're offering. Sometimes we'll have guest speakers in some of our sessions. All right, so let's see what else. I'm going to continue looking, and you can raise your hand and ask, if you want to ask a question out loud. I'll call on you. The raise hand function is amongst your Zoom tools, the react icon, or you might actually see a raise hand icon. We still have about 5 minutes left, I think, so let's go through some of these questions.
And if I could just mention that I've also just posted a component of a flyer for those of you that are in the Roanoke area. I want to make sure people know that we're having a on-site event in person entitled Strikeout Scams, where we will be both bowling and eating refreshments and having free document shredding at AMF Hilltop Lanes off of Williamson Road in Roanoke. That's something that you need to register for, but I want to invite everyone next Thursday to take part in that. If you're nearby the Roanoke area, I still haven't looked up the location of Hamilton, Virginia. I need to do that. I know someone's from there. But I also put in the two topics next Wednesday and the week after that. Managing your privacy. There's a link to register for that event on the 16th. And the following antivirus and mail and malware removal programs at a glance, which will take place on the 23rd. If you liked today's session, I predict you'll enjoy those two sessions, which are coming up on subsequent Wednesdays. Thank you, Johnny.
Sure, no problem, Brian. So a lot of the questions that I came across in the chat room might have already been addressed when we were going over things like using public computers. Yeah, to change passwords on a public computer, I would probably do stuff like that once you get home on your protected Wi-Fi, or maybe on your mobile device using your mobile data, if you're able to do that on your mobile device. Should you use a separate email account for your financial and confidential emails and have that account linked to another main account by forwarding? Yeah, some people have multiple email accounts for different things. Like one account they might use just to communicate with friends and family. They might use one account for shopping and banking needs. It's also another way to help keep track of notifications and what have you, communications that are coming from those companies and institutions. Is there a way to find out if someone has stolen your identity from Facebook? There is a link I'm going to share with you all, and this is identitytheft.gov. And here, if you feel that you have been a victim of identity theft, this website will take you through the steps on what to do remedy the situation, to report identity theft and to get a recovery plan. There's a big get started button you'll see. Just go to identitytheft.gov. I don't put the link into the chat room. I don't know if I have, I don't think I have time to demo the web page, but again, call our hotline if you're coming across that web page and you're, needing some more information. Let's see. All right. Any other questions here? Okay, it looks like I think we pretty much covered most of what was in there. I apologize if we skipped a question or two, folks, but I do appreciate your attendance, and thank you, Brian, for having us here at Senior Planet offer this webinar. We look forward to many more coming.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your willingness to present today and answer all the questions. I feel like we've accomplished the goals that we've set out to do, and we're ending right on time. Just again, please everyone be on the lookout for a webinar from AARP Virginia, which will offer a survey helping us to improve upon these and making sure that we are accomplishing what we set out to do. It's delightful to see the thank yous coming in on the chat for those demonstrating appreciation for what has been shared, and be on the lookout for that recording, which will be live just for a short time after this event, to allow for individuals who registered but could not participate to be able to take part in the instruction that was given. Note that that will be the same for the next 2 Wednesday webinars. If you cannot make the webinar but say, oh, I'd really like to get that information, I encourage you to sign up on the links that are featured in the chat, so that you have access to that, even if next Wednesday at 1 o'clock is not convenient, or the Wednesday following you happen to have an appointment of some kind. With that, we'll end today's program with a big thank you to all who participated, and especially to Johnny, our presenter today. Best wishes.
Thank you, Brian. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.